States and all around the world. This is New Day. It's Monday, January 16th, 6 o'clock in New York. I'm John Berman, joined by Poppy Harlow this morning. Chris and Allison are off today. Up first, President-elect Donald Trump slamming outgoing CIA Director John Brennan after the director said that the president-elect doesn't fully understand Russia and warned him to watch his tongue. Mr. Trump is now suggesting that Brennan may be behind the leak of that unsubstantiated dossier.
This is the backlash intensifies in the feud between the president-elect and civil rights hero Congressman John Lewis. Now, a growing list of Democratic lawmakers say they are not going. They are boycotting Trump's swearing in. The president-elect is also this morning vowing insurance for everybody in a new interview. That's his plan to replace Obamacare. How will he do it? We are now just 4 days away from Inauguration Day. We have it all covered. Let's begin this morning with our Sarah Murray. Good morning.
Good morning, Poppy. Well, Donald Trump has, of course, had a fraught relationship with the intelligence community so far, but he's kicking it up a notch on Twitter, going after outgoing CIA Director John Brennan, saying, was this the leaker of fake news? Donald Trump taking to Twitter to suggest that outgoing CIA Director John Brennan leaked unsubstantiated personal and financial information that could be damaging to Trump.
There is no basis for Mr. Trump to point fingers at the intelligence community for leaking information that was already available publicly.
Trump's charge coming hours after Brennan appeared on national television, arguing the president-elect doesn't understand the critical threat Russia poses.
I think he has to recognize that his words do have impact, and they can have a very positive impact, or they can be undercutting of our national security.
Trump has spent months doubting U.S. intelligence findings that Russia was behind the election cyber attacks. And in a new interview, the president-elect suggesting the U.S. could ease tensions with Russia. Trump telling the Times of London and German newspaper Bild, let's see if we can make some good deals. This as China blasts Trump's comments over the weekend that the One China policy, which maintains Taiwan as part of China, is under negotiation. China's state-run tabloid slamming Trump in an editorial. Quote, we were simply angry initially, but now we can't help but laugh.
There are no plans to change the One China policy, but certainly that policy's on the table if China doesn't also come to the table and work with us on trade, work with us on the South China Sea and what's happening there.
Meanwhile, at home, Trump promising we're going to have insurance for everybody in a new interview with the Washington Post. The president-elect not revealing specifics, but says he's close to finishing his plan to replace the Affordable Care Act. And part of that plan will be to specifically target the pharmaceutical industry. Over the weekend, thousands joining rallies across the country, led by Democrats to protest repeal of the law, while Trump's feud with civil rights icon Congressman John Lewis intensifies.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
The controversial comment, of course, provoking Trump to tweet. Congressman John Lewis should spend more time on fixing and helping his district, which is in horrible shape and falling apart, not to mention crime-infested, rather than falsely complaining about the election results. All talk, talk, talk. No action or results. Sad. But Trump's assertion is wrong. Lewis represents an economically diverse area of Atlanta, thriving and wealthy in some areas, with poverty in others. Now dozens of Democrats say they'll boycott Trump's inauguration. And it's, of course, going to be a very busy week for Donald Trump as well as his inner circle. There is a full battery of confirmation hearings scheduled this week on Capitol Hill, beginning on Tuesday with Ryan Zinke as well as Betsy DeVos. Now, we expected Donald Trump to get a jump start on the week in Washington and actually spend today there before he's officially inaugurated on Friday. That is no longer the case. He's going to be sticking around New York City for the day. Back to you guys.
Canceled those plans for some reason. All right, Sarah Murray, thanks so much. A lot to discuss this morning. So let's bring in politics editor of TheRoot.com and professor of political science and communication at Morgan State University, Jason Johnson, senior congressional correspondent for the Washington Examiner and host of Examining Politics podcast, David Drucker, and CNN political analyst David Gregory. Gentlemen, let me read you what Donald Trump wrote about the outgoing CIA chief John Brennan. He wrote a tweet. He said, outgoing CIA chief John Brennan blasts President-elect Trump on Russia's threat, does not fully understand. Oh, really? Couldn't do much worse. Just look at Syria, red line. Crimea, Ukraine in the buildup of Russian nukes. Not good. Was this the leaker of fake news? So, guys, I think for the last 2 years, we've been asking this question. You know, when there's a campaign, we would ask, what's good for Donald Trump, or how does this help or hurt Donald Trump? We're 5 days from the inauguration now, and I think the question needs to be different. I think the question needs to be, how does this help or hurt America? So, David Drucker, when you have the president-elect saying this about the outgoing CIA chief, how does that help or hurt America?
Well, I think that Donald Trump's going to be responsible for national security in a few days, and he's going to need the intelligence services on his side, and they're going to need to work together. And if they're at odds, look, it's one thing if the intelligence agencies are lacking of effectiveness. It's Donald Trump's job as the President of the United States to do something about that. But to feud over things like this is not helpful, because his administration, which is going to include the intelligence agencies, needs to be on the same page. And I think that it's one thing for the outgoing CIA director who was appointed by President Obama to be critical of Trump, and that might be expected. But the things that Brennan said about Trump vis-a-vis Russia and Vladimir Putin are things that Republicans on Capitol Hill have been telling me for months, frankly. I've spoken the past couple of weeks to House Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes. I spoke to Senator Tom Cotton, who serves on the Intelligence Committee in his chamber. They're both concerned that President Trump is going to make the same mistake in their view that President Obama made, which is to try a reset of relations with Vladimir Putin, and doesn't fully understand that Putin is an adversary and, as Cotton told me, is not our friend. And I think that it would serve Trump better if, instead of asking why we can't get along with Russia, he would ask, why can't Russia get along with us? Because getting along is not the issue. Getting along on our terms that serves the U.S. agenda around the world rather than Moscow's is what should be the president-elect's goal. And I think that if he doesn't fully understand that going forward, he'll end up in the same position President Obama did, which is he tried to make nice, it didn't work, and Moscow has been going around the world undercutting our national security and our influence.
David Gregory, not only not helpful to the American public, but also the question of harm and what harm can be done when the president, if President Trump has to make the case to the American people, for example, that the United States needs to go to war, and here's the intelligence that is based on, the American people need to know that these two entities are completely on the same page and in lockstep. And, Republicans, one of whom I had on my show last night, said, well, it's going to be different when Pompeo is leading the CIA. But you've got a lot of the same people that will still be serving him under Pompeo.
No, I think that's the important point, which is that you have a lot of career professionals in our intelligence community who are tracking this, who are offended by it, and who may have opinions on all sides of this. But look, Director Brennan is someone who has worked in a bipartisan way over the years and has been in the CIA a long time. So some of his views are reflecting those career professionals who have been offended by Donald Trump. I do think it's worth pointing out, however, that Trump, in my view, has a legitimate complaint against the intelligence community. Why they would include this dossier in a written briefing, why they had to write it down. Why couldn't it have been part of a verbal briefing to say, we're aware of this is in the public domain, and you should know about this and think about how you want to deal with it. Why make it part of the appendix when it could be leaked, I think, is something that makes him angry. And I think that's legitimate. I think when he has his own people in there at the head, then he's going to have a different tune. But it's not going to change this dynamic in terms of people being offended within the community. And secondly, to David's point, he's still going to have some real tension with congressional Republicans who agree with the intelligence community about the nature of the threat from Russia and the fact that Trump is not taking it seriously enough, even though, like a lot of new administrations, he wants to come in and try to reset this. It could be a month, 2 months, and there could be a very different tune from Trump about Russia, but his snap judgments in all of these cases, I think, should also be worrisome in terms of what he puts in the public domain about Putin and how they may get angry with one another and how that affects relations.
Just one point, the 35-page memo that we did not report on, by the way, that was out there. Right. That was out there already, whether or not the intelligence community included a summary of it or explained it in the two-page.
I understand. But nobody did anything with it. The fact that the intelligence community, they elevated to a point where you put this information in written form and present it.
They summarized it in 2 pages. But I just wanted to make clear it's not that they put the full 35 pages.
Yeah, no,
in
that's
form.
right. That's right.
All right, let me talk about another country right now and what they're doing this morning. China, the China Global Times, which is, like many press organizations in China, something of a mouthpiece for the government there, albeit a bit of a more sensational one, took a swipe at the president-elect overnight. And they said Trump's thinking about China is becoming increasingly clear. He wants China to make huge economic and trade concessions to the U.S. To achieve that, he's willing to stir certain calm areas in China-U.S. relations, including treating Taiwan, the Taiwan issue as his trump card. This is the good part. We're simply angry initially, but now we can't help but laugh at this U.S. leader in waiting. Maybe American voters promoted him too quickly. His amateur remarks and overconfident manner are equally shocking. So, Jason, his amateur remarks equally shocking. You know, when I read that from China, I'm like, they can't say that about our pledges. Only we can say that about our pledges. No, I mean, does this say that Donald Trump is getting under their skin?
No, this says that they're waiting to test him. I mean, we remember the first 100 days with George Bush when we had a spy plane go down. These countries line up to see how tough our new president is going to be.
But he's been tough so far. The answer is he's been tough so far.
He's been verbally tough, but can he back it up? And when you've got a president who's already at odds with the intelligence agencies, how tough can he be? How aggressive can he be? How strong can he be in any kind of negotiations he wants to make? China's always going to say abrasive things. They said it about Bush. They said it about Clinton. They said it about Obama. But this is a real test of how much restraint and discipline can Trump show in the face of these kinds of insults.
Well, he actually can. I mean, he actually has a lot of power to slap huge tariffs by himself on goods from these countries. And these are, you know, this is a huge trading partner for us.
And they can do the same thing to us. Remember, our debt ratio with China makes it very dangerous to go to trade war with them right now, especially from a president who says, I'm about to bring jobs back.
And they can also hurt our farmers. I mean, China's got some responses. But look, to Jason's point, this is a testing, and it's a testing of both sides. I think the number one proposition of the Trump foreign policy that's emerging is he wants to try to take countries on in a completely unorthodox, different way to force a better deal. We don't know what that's going to look like.
We certainly don't, but we will know in 4 days and counting. Guys, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We have a lot of news to get to this morning. Breaking news, at least